Hello everyone, welcome to Tuesday Night Legacy presented by Spellhold Games. My name is Eugene and I will be your commentator as always for this March 15th, round 4. We got a new deck on camera. That's our blue-white Stoneblade list piloted by David on the left, and we have Yorion DnT to give him a run for his money on the right, piloted by Johnny. Let's get right into it. Both of these decks working on the tempo plan. To a degree, I guess. Well, the blue-white tempo, or Stoneblade deck, is definitely more of a tempo deck than a Death and Taxes. Traditionally almost a control deck with all of its taxing functions and such to kind of outvalue the other player. We see David starting off with a traditional start for the tempo list, a Delver of Secrets. And he did reveal a Ponder off the top, which immediately flipped it into that 3/2 Flying Insectile aberration. This is going to be one of the cards that this deck wants to ride to victory, basically just protecting it as much as possible to get in maximum value. 3 damage is quite a bit and puts a real clock on the opponent, especially if they don't have anything to do, as that creature just keeps swinging in for beats every turn. We see Johnny making a pretty significant play here, the Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. This is going to really hurt the blue, what do you want to call it, the cantrippings of the deck. So with this being a tempo deck, it wants to stay ahead of the other deck at all times, but with that additional tax that Death and Taxes is giving it from Thalia, we are going to see, we see a prismatic ending here, which is going to kind of ruin Johnny's plays here. Oh, right into a Force of Will for that Recruiter of the Guard. Johnny feels like he's already so far behind that he just wants to go to game 2. So unfortunately, couldn't stick it out that game, but starting off with a strong turn 1 Aether Vial from Johnny. This card is going to allow him to get around things like counter spells, as long as they aren't stifled out. Traditional counter spells it'll work around. Johnny kind of deciding what he wants to do with his Karakas Plains here. We're going to see another Thalia, I believe. And, yeah, first strike, definitely a Thalia. So in a much better position here. So even though he has to pay that tax as well for the non-creature spells, all he would get in is the Aether Vial or maybe a Swords to Plowshares every once in a while. So already at a much better situation here. But here's the white of the blue-white Stoneblade list going off. Casting Stoneforge Mystic, which is going to get Sword of Fire and Ice. Although it doesn't have any relevant protection colors, this does generate a ton of value on the creature if it can get in for beats. Drawing an extra card and shooting something for 2 damage that does not have a colored colored source, because I believe the sword is doing the damage. Although, no, equipped creature deals 2 damage, so it would be from the creature itself. We see the Cauldron complete. Turned out that David had it in his hand, which is why he didn't search it up. Activating the Stoneforge Mystic, getting that Cauldron with all those, I think, 7 lines of text. But basically all you need to know is it's an indestructible 5/5 beater. So, and blocking it is irrelevant since the trample also would make it poor for blocking. So 5 damage already in, putting a lot of pressure on Johnny with the 4 lands. He does have a Urza Saga down, and he's trying to tap down with his Rashadan Port to maybe deny the mana just a little bit here. Although when he went to deny that mana, David activated the Stoneforge, putting that Sword of Fire and Ice into play in response. We see a Tropical Island here, so technically I guess this deck is... Oh, it's technically 4-color. I think that's a Underground Sea as well. So we see an activation, but that's going to get Swords to Plowshared before it could grow any bigger. So going to lose that germ, but gain 5 life. Having to pay 2, of course, to pay the Thalia tax. Leaving Aether Vial on 3. This is good for things like Recruiter of the Guard and Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisp being an excellent answer at instant speed with an Aether Vial to the Cauldron complete. 5 cast... Hard casting Solitude is going to have the same effect as a Swords to Plowshares when it comes into play. Exile the creature, they gain life for its toughness. Getting rid of the only other creature that David had in play. This is going to make those equipments a little less useful. Gonna see a Swords to Plowshares, getting rid of Thalia, so that tax is gone now. So without a creature to equip all of these nice equipments to, they're kind of just going to sit around. So Johnny's actually in a pretty good place here with a 3/2 lifelinker and that Vial on 3. So if he's got nothing else to do, at least he could use that Saga to create the construct with that 3rd trigger on the stack. Oh, interesting. So we're going to see a Stifle from David, going to stifle the search activation for the Urza Saga, so he does not get the 0 or 1 mana cost artifact into play. But Johnny is going to create the construct and then play another Aether Vial. Looked like he also wastelanded there, getting rid of, double wasteland, getting rid of the Underground Sea and the Tropical Island. So David just down to 2 mana here, a white source and a blue source. Going to see a Swords. No, it's an Ending. So Ending very good for dealing with constructs. Just have to pay 1 white mana to get rid of them. That brings down Johnny's clock quite a bit here. So instead of 6, he's now only coming in for 3 each turn. This Brainstorm resolving, trying to set up the field. I guess he didn't see a land on the top 3. So these next 2 draws are a little bit dead. See another Wasteland. With an Aether Vial on 3 and 1. I guess Johnny doesn't have a ton in his hand for creatures. It looks like he only has 1 card in hand right now. Whereas David has quite a few, one of them being a Brainstorm. Trying to tap down that blue source with the Rishadan Port, getting maximum value out of denying David resources here, since he already knew what those top 2 cards were. This Brainstorm is only getting him 1 card lower, and then he's going to have to draw into that card for the turn. But it was a polluted Delta, so he gets to reset the top of his library and get the land. It's going to say, yeah, I see that Wasteland over there. Let's get this basic island. Definitely don't want to continue to get blown out by Wasteland. And so for 2 mana for the turn, we're going to see a Delver of Secrets come down. So now that he has a creature to put at least the Sword of Fire and Ice on, it's going to change the flow if Johnny can't answer it. But it does look like Johnny's got some stuff. It's got the Recruiter of the Guard. Recruiter of the Guard, yep. Is going to get him. This is kind of one of the cards that the Yorion list revolves around, with it being an 80-card list. The statistical variation of seeing the same cards is a lot lower since you're adding 20 cards to the deck of minimum size. The Recruiter of the Guard helps fix that by having 4 copies of this card in the deck, and you get to go and get any card from your deck that has power to, or nope, it's toughness. Toughness. It's not the other guard, or the other recruiter rather. So it gets toughness 2 or less, and basically every card in the Death and Taxes list has toughness 2 or less. Ooh, this is big. So we see the Delver does change into the Insectile Aberration, and David gets to draw into a Swords to Plowshares, taking care of one of Johnny's threats. So right now he could save it for that Solitude, or just fire it off at the Solitude, or you could save it for the Stoneforge Mystic. Not entirely certain. Kind of thinking. All right, so we see an activation here of the Sword of Fire and Ice. No responses, so David gets to draw a card. He's hitting for 5 with that sword, and he shoots down the Solitude. That is one of the main problems. If there is some sort of recursion of 2 damage from your opponent, Death and Taxes creatures definitely fold to that over time. Another very good card against the Death and Taxes list, if there's no protection available, is Punishing Fire. Punishing Fire can kill pretty much any card in the deck. But, you know, there's ways around it. So with him being tapped out, we see the activation of the Stoneforge Mystic at the end of David's turn, which gets the Cauldron Complete into play and gets in for beats. Looks like David's at 9, so he's down to 3. We do know that David has the sword in hand. Trying to tap down a blue source during upkeep. So we see, I guess there's a little bit of confusion on which land is going to get ported. So kind of talking a little bit about the two choices here, and decides to go with the white source instead. Uses the white mana and Swords to Plowshares, the Germ token off the Cauldron Complete. So 3 life, down to 2 with this fetch land. David in kind of a tough spot here, going and getting a Tundra. A lot of duels for the blue-white Stoneblade list. Wants to have access to that white mana. Gets in for another 5, so that Swords effect pretty much negated with 1 attack. Uses the 2 damage to get rid of the Stoneforge Mystic, draws an extra card. 3 mana for David on his second main phase, decides to just pass. Looks like a Mother of Runes in Johnny's hand. I'm not sure what that other card is, but the middle card is Iganjo's Seed of the Empire. So I think Johnny's plan here is to kind of close out the game with the Recruiter over 2 turns and just shoot down the Delver of Secrets with the Iganjo. Since it doesn't have a colored source, he can just blow it out of the water. It only takes 3 to activate, so this Wasteland isn't the worst thing in the world here. Letting that Rashad Port just go. Decides to get in for the attack. 3 mana for Iganjo. Unfortunately, there's the Stifle, since it's a discard ability that is an activated ability of the card, and Stifle will work in this situation. So that would have been lethal to the, or that would have killed the Delver of Secrets Insectile Aberration, but getting countered there. That was kind of a blowout. Getting to deal the 2 damage to the only other card that Johnny had access to with damage. So, in a tough spot now. This Delver is going to be coming across for 7 damage each turn. So, going to close out the game in basically 3 turns from now. This on 2. I'm not entirely certain. Oh, I couldn't tell what that card was, but it didn't matter because Swords to Plowshares said no thanks. Seeing that Mother of Runes get resolved here. So if this can stay in play, then it can provide protection from colored sources. But I don't think it's going to stick around long enough from this Delver of Secrets Sword of Fire and Ice activation. See another attack for 5. Shoot down the Mother of Runes. Draw an extra card. Blue-white Stoneblade definitely in control here now. Ooh, that's a big play. Murktide Regent. It's going to exile, 5 instants and sorceries up to 8. So 2 mana for an 8/8 flyer. That's going to close out the game, if nothing else. And that's going to be the end. So thank you for joining us for this round 4. Please continue to like and subscribe to the videos. And this week we will have an extra video. We just need to get it together. There's going to be a bonus Pauper video. And so look forward to that. I believe it's Reality Acid versus Storm Graveyard combo. So see you then.